The process of using ratings, labels, and flags is relatively straightforward. What might not be as clear is when you would use each of these features. In this lesson, we'll consider some of the reasons you might choose one or more of these options for organizing your images and how you might actually employ them. We'll start off with star ratings. Star ratings are a simple concept to understand. 1 through 5 stars, and in most cases we think of 5 stars as being the best and 1 star as being the worst. For most photographers, I think it makes sense to assign star ratings to your images. The question is, should you assign a star rating to every image? For example, in this case, I have a group of images that are very similar. I don't need to assign an individual star rating to all of them, but I certainly could. Some photographers want every image to have a star rating, but that can be rather time-consuming. In my mind, it makes sense to only assign star ratings to images you're actually likely to use. In fact, for me personally, I only use 4 and 5 star ratings in most cases. Sometimes I'll assign a 3-star rating, but more often than not, if I deem an image to be less than a 4-star rating, I simply won't assign a rating at all. In other words, why even take the time to assign a rating to an image that I'm never going to use anyway? Another approach you might take with star ratings is to assign star ratings only to the images that actually meet your criteria. In other words, don't think of a 1-star image as being a bad image, but rather a 1-star image could be defined as an image that meets the basic criteria for you. It's an image you would use, but it's not necessarily one of your favorite images. The bottom line is, I think it doesn't make a lot of sense for photographers to assign star ratings to every single image. One of the ways you can minimize the number of images that you need to assign star ratings to is to first go through a process of picking or rejecting individual images. With the pick flags, we can mark an image as one that's acceptable, in other words, an image that you would probably use, or an image that is rejected, one that you're not likely to use, and potentially might even delete from your Lightroom catalog. For most photographers, I think it makes a lot of sense to assign pick flags based on whether or not an image meets your criteria. But there again, you need to consider whether you want to assign a flag to every single image. In other words, in general, an image with a pick flag means it is one that you will use in some context, an image with a reject flag means it's an image you won't use, and an image without a flag means that it's one you're not likely to use, but you want to keep it as an alternative just in case. The question is, does an image without a pick flag mean that you've reviewed it and decided that it wasn't a pick or a reject, or does it mean you simply haven't reviewed the image yet? The point is, you need to have a system in place so the labels you assign to your images are actually meaningful, and the absence of a label is also meaningful. If you were to use the pick flags to identify images as either picked or rejected, that would also make the process of applying star ratings that much easier. For example, here I've selected a series of images, and if I right-click on any of the selected images and then choose Set Flag and Flagged, these images will all be flagged as a pick. I could then set a filter so that I can only see my flagged images. Now I can go through these images one at a time and assign a star rating to each of them. So for example, this one might be a 2-star image, and this one perhaps is a 3-star image, etc. And I can continue through that process, assigning star ratings only to images that I know are already worthy of my attention. For most photographers, the combination of pick flags and star ratings is probably more than adequate for organizing your images. However, you can also use color labels to further your organizational process. I generally think of color labels as assigning a category to the images. Of course, the concept of a category can be very flexible. You might think of them as a priority flag or as assigning them to an individual category. Some photographers will use the color label to identify which stage of a workflow process the images are in. For example, red images still need to be printed and yellow images need to be sent to clients. The challenge here, of course, is that you can only have one color label assigned to a given image. So if you're going to employ color labels, you need to think of a structure that won't be problematic based on only having one color assigned to a given image. For example, if the red color label means the image needs to be printed and the yellow color label means the image needs to be sent to the client, what happens if you have an image that needs both tasks to be performed? I tend to use color labels for special projects. I'll assign color labels as needed so that I can quickly group images. Of course, since Lightroom allows you to create collections, smart collections, and utilize a quick collection, in many cases the color labels are simply not necessary. Just because a feature is available in Lightroom doesn't mean you have to use it. Don't feel like you need to assign star ratings, color labels, and flags to every single image you import into Lightroom. Instead, consider how you can best put these features to use in your specific workflow and employ them only when they actually provide a benefit to you.